Alright, hello everyone. Good morning. So welcome back to another Facebook Live yoga class. And today it is Full Body Beginners Part 2. Because last week I obviously ran out of time and I didn't get to show you everything I wanted to show you. It's very early, so get some coffee. I like these morning classes because I feel like we can all just wake up together. So the purpose of these full body classes, this is the second part, it's also the last part that of like the little mini series I'm going to do. So the purpose of this class really is to just introduce you to some of the foundation postures that you'll find in my classes. So I use these postures time and time again. They're quite simple but very effective, and I know quite a few people message me saying they're just new to yoga, they're really nervous about coming to a class, they don't know what to expect. So these beginner classes are just to give you a little bit of a taste of what you're going to find in like a public gym class or studio class with me. Nothing scary, I promise. I'm a big fan of foundation postures, I'm a big fan of simple moves. I think sometimes in yoga it's too complicated. Like there's a lot of complicated flows, a lot of complicated postures, and I do really like to throw them in time like every now and then, but they're not something I use regularly. I'm a big supporter of simple but effective moves, very supported postures. I do a lot of stuff on our backs, I do a lot of strength work, so yeah, just it always takes me a bit of time to warm up in the mornings. So what I'm trying to say is there really is no need to overcomplicate things. So the simple postures we're going to look at today, while they may be not very fancy looking, they're really good for your body. And usually less is more. Less is always more in yoga. So that's the lesson that you can take away with you today. Less is more. And all you're going to need is a strap. So if you want to grab a yoga strap, and if you don't have a yoga strap, you can use a dressing gown belt, a resistance band, or just something that you could hold above your head, like a long piece of material. Even a towel will do. And that's it. And if you've got any injuries, you just need to sort of check with your doctor before doing this class. But we're going to take the pace down a little bit. One, because it's early, and two, because it's a beginner's class. So we're going to start nice and gently, and we're actually going to work our way up to some standing postures today. We didn't get to do that last week because my time management is poor. But we're going to work our way through some sort of fundamental standing postures. It's going to be fun. And all the standing postures are designed to really build some strength in your legs. Alright, so the first thing we usually do in a yoga class with me is lie down and have a rest. You'll soon find that I'm quite a lazy person. For a yoga teacher, I'm very lazy. So we're going to lie on our backs to begin with. Alright? And there's a couple of ways you can lie. So I don't actually mind how you want to start the class. Some people like taking their feet together, letting the knees fall out sideways. So this is a posture called reclined bound angle. It's a really lovely passive stretch in the hips, the groin, across the pelvis. And if you are bringing the feet together and letting the knees fall out sideways, you can rest the hands either side of the body, palms up, so the shoulders roll down towards the floor, the chest is nice and open. Or if this isn't comfortable for whatever reason, you can have the knees bent. This is a good option for people who get quite sore lower backs, you need a bit of support, or you can have the legs straight. But just finding a position you can be still in for a few moments and then settling in. We're not going to stay here very long because there's always a bit of a risk of falling asleep. I've done that before. I've got up really early before to practice yoga. I mean, 7:30, pretty early for me. And I've got on my mat and I kid you not, have fallen asleep, and my alarm woke me up an hour later and I had to go to work. So we're not going to close the eyes and stay here very long, but just long enough to establish the breath. So the breath is something you're going to hear me talk about a lot in my classes, really important. It's how we move in and out of postures, it's how we deepen postures. So if the breath becomes laboured too quick, it's an indication that you've you've put a bit too much work in. You always want to be able to breathe comfortably in whatever posture you're in, whether that's a foundation posture or whether that's like a crazy arm balance, headstand, whatever. So always prioritising the breath over the posture, and we breathe through the nose if possible, and we also try and make the inhales and exhales equal in length. So you're finding a steady rhythm, a slower rhythm than usual, but something that's sustainable for you. So something that feels quite comfortable, quite natural. And then just very quickly taking the attention around the body, checking in, seeing how you feel. Always being mindful of areas of tension, injuries. Again, a big part of yoga, I talk about this a lot, is differentiating between pain. So while some of the postures feel a bit intense, might feel a little bit crampy if you're engaging muscles, a little bit intense if you're stretching muscles that haven't been stretched for a while. We never want to feel sharp or shooting pain. So that's the kind of pain we want to avoid. But if things feel, it is up to you to decide whether that's valuable or not. There's not actually much wrong with something feeling a little bit uncomfortable as long as there's no sharp or shooting sensations that accompany it. Ooh, these are some big words today. Right. Okay, and then yeah, just sort of checking in here. You are your own best teacher, noticing the sensations in the body. Taking a couple deep breaths, and let's begin. So open your eyes if your eyes are shut, bring your knees together if your knees are apart, and we're just going to take a cat stretch. So cat stretch, you point both toes down the mat, arms overhead, just lengthen the body. You'll find this in every class I do, so it's just a good full body stretch. Making yourself as long as possible, and because it's early, things are going to be a little bit tighter than normal. So just stretching it back out. I don't know, I sleep curled up in a little ball, so I'm always tight in the morning. So this is a good thing to do, especially early on. Feeling that stretch, lower back, shoulders, tops of the legs, tops of the feet even. And then from there, as you exhale, just hug your knees into your chest, rock from side to side and make some circles. Back of the head on the floor, hands around the knees or the shins to make the rotation, and squeezing the thighs in towards the belly as you roll. Rocking out any tension, stiffness that may have built up in the lower back overnight. Okay, lovely. And then bring both feet to the floor. So we're going to start gently. We're going to start with a couple of lying twists. Again, you're likely to find these in every single class I do. So feet and knees together. Going to keep the feet on the floor. Draw the heels in towards the bum, arms out wide. Palms down, so taking the arms in a T position. Big inhale here, and then as you exhale, very lazily let the legs fall over towards the right. And then gently turn your head and look over the left shoulder. So this is a supine twist, passive posture. The only thing we want to be mindful of is that we're keeping that left shoulder down, so the left shoulder doesn't lift up off the mat. If it does, a couple of things you can do. You can either press that left palm a little bit more into the floor, make that left arm a little bit stronger, or you can bring the knees a little bit higher up towards centre. If the left shoulder picks up off the floor, it's an indication you've just flopped too much over towards the right. And if that is the case, you lose that isolated stretch in the lower back, and you also may be feeling this sort of around the top of the left leg, so that hip area. But besides the left shoulder, the knees fall as far as they want to fall. There's no effort to get them to hit the floor. We're not squeezing the knees together if they want to fall apart. Very lazy twist. Couple more breaths here. Okay, and then inhale back to centre, and then on the exhale, let's let the legs fall over towards the left this time. Gently turning the head, looking over the right shoulder. Again, keeping that right shoulder down. Legs really heavy, not squeezing them or forcing them down to the floor. And then inhale back to centre. So keep the arms in the position they're in. This time, if you fancy a deeper stretch, you're going to pick the feet up off the floor, knees together to begin with. If you don't, feet back on the floor. We'll do that once more. So as you inhale, it's just how I always am in the morning, you forget how to talk. So inhale here, then as you exhale, let the knees fall over to the right again. So if you pick the feet up off the floor, it's going to be a little bit trickier to keep that left shoulder down, but do your best. Once you're in your twist, gently turn and look over that left shoulder. Again, I always tend to feel this in my groin. So while I say lower back and the sort of top of the leg, you could feel it in a variety of places: groin, obliques, shoulder. Nice, slow, steady breaths. Few more moments here. Okay, and then as you inhale, back to centre, and then on the exhale, very lazily let the legs fall over towards the left. Gently turn and look over the right shoulder. No effort, no force, really just falling into this shape. Noticing if one side feels a little bit different to the other. So usually does, we usually have a tighter side, a looser side. And then inhale back to centre. Lovely, take both feet to the floor. We'll take another cat stretch. So arms overhead, feet down the mat. Just make yourself as long as you can. Waken the body up quite gently this morning. And then exhale, hug your knees into your chest. Rock from side to side and make some small circles. Or big circles. You can go big if you want. Just keep the back of the head on the floor. Alright, and then take both feet to the mat. So last line posture we're going to do. Another posture that you'll see again and again in my classes, knee to chest pose. Just a very good way to gently open up into the groin, to stretch into the hip flex of the quad area. So extend the left leg down the mat. We'll keep the left toes active, which means the left toes gently pull back. We'll see if we can ground down through the left calf. So if your groin is tight, that left calf is going to want to lift. Not a problem, but over time, let's see if we can press it down. Hold on to your right shin below the knee. Big inhale, then exhale. Squeeze in the right thigh back towards the tummy. Then feeling that stretch, top of the right leg, groin. And over time, we're seeing if we can close the gap between the right thigh and the stomach. This is a movement that is very beneficial in a lot of postures. So getting the legs as close to the body as possible is something that we need when we come to more complicated things like crow, which is bakasana and arm balance, jump throughs where we're jumping from downward dog into seated, forward folds where we're trying to sort of lay the belly down on the thighs to keep the back nice and long. There's a lot of reasons why we're trying to bring the legs closer towards the tummy. This is one of the gentlest ways we can start getting a feel for that. It's a very, very valuable posture, although it's not very Instagrammable. So we've got some gentle resistance to ease the right leg back. The chest is broad, the shoulders roll down, and the chin tucks in towards the chest ever so slightly so the neck is long. We're still trying to find length through the spine in these lying positions. Few more moments here. Alright, and then we're going to bring this into a twist. So from here, you're going to let the left leg relax now. It's going to travel with the twist. Keep hold of the right shin with the left hand and then extend your right arm out to the side, palms down. Inhale here, then as you exhale, gently guide the right leg over towards the left. It means your right butt cheek is going to lift up off the floor, so the right sit bone will lift. We're not forcing the knee to the floor. In fact, don't think it really can go down to the floor. I suppose it can, but it doesn't need to here. And then turn the head and look over the right shoulder once you're in your twist. One of the deeper twists we do, as well as working into the lower back, starts to stretch across the right glute as well. Okay, and then as you inhale, come back to center, and then we'll just extend the right leg down the mat, sides. So to begin with, right toes active, right toes pull back. A little bit of effort in that right leg and ground through the right calf. Take hold of the left shin below the knee. Big inhale, then exhale. Squeeze in the left thigh back towards the tummy. Now I should have mentioned, if you do have knee pain, sometimes this, even like a quite simple posture like this, can pull into the knee. So if you're experiencing knee pain, maybe instead of taking the shin, you want to take the back of the thigh instead. You can just take some of the pressure out of that area. Otherwise, shoulders roll down towards the mat, chest is broad. Squeeze in the thigh back towards the tummy, feeling some sort of stretch in the top of the left leg now. Seeing if we can ground through that right calf. A few more moments. Alright, and then we'll bring it into that twist. So now let the right leg just relax. It's going to travel with us. Extend your left arm out to the side, palms down, just like the twist before. Hold on to the left shin with the right hand. Big inhale, then exhale. Just draw the left knee over towards the right. So the left sit bone will lift. And then gently turn your head and look over the left shoulder, feeling that stretch lower back, but also quite a big stretch into the left glute. So just for the sake of transparency, I did feel some sharp and shooting pain there. So what you do is you just come out of the posture a little bit, okay? It's morning, things are a little bit tighter. Even in what is seemingly a gentle posture, it can sometimes give you little twinges, little tweaks. So don't get complacent in yoga either. Just because something is a passive stretch, a gentle stretch, doesn't mean you don't have to be careful with how you're moving through it. Plus, this is quite a deep posture for the back. Okay, and then as you inhale, come back to center. Take your feet to the floor, or take another cat stretch. So make yourself as long as you possibly can last time. And then exhale, hug your knees into the chest. Rock from side to side, roll in big circles or small circles or whatever feels good for your back here. Oh, okay, and then when you're ready, you can pop yourself up to seated. Lovely. I'm gonna grab some coffee. So this is the class where we just have a chat, we have some coffee, we do some stretches to wake our body up. It's kind of like a nice thing. Although what is quite funny is I'm aware quite a lot of people do this class quite late in the day. So I'm just sitting here bleary-eyed, everyone's probably like bushy-tailed, having a great time. Alright, let's come into all fours. So making your way into an all four position. For a posture you will probably see in 9 out of 10 of my classes, cat-cows. The reason I put it in so many of my classes is because it's just fantastic. You wave through the spine, it stretches into all the muscles in the back, works the shoulders, you get a nice stretch in the front body with the inhale, so just a great all-round posture. The spine doesn't get to move like this very often. So if you come into all fours, fingers spread underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, top of the feet on the floor. And then with cat-cow, as you inhale, you lift the hips, you lift the chest, you look forward. And then as you exhale, you round the back, chin to chest, head drops, arching the spine up towards the ceiling. So the inhale lifts the hips, lifts the chest, little back bend, belly drops, look forwards, and then exhale, rounds. So really curving the back here, pushing into the hands, and then feeling that stretch come the shoulders, upper back, back of the neck. And then keep this movement up, the whole of the inhale lifts, and the whole of the exhale rounds. So use your own breath now. And again, it's very, very early. So sometimes postures can feel a little bit intense. There's a big old difference from when we practice yoga in the morning and we practice yoga in the evening. Okay, so waving through the spine, rolling through the spine here. Just taking a couple more moments of this. Okay, and then as you exhale, just come to a flat back, and then from here, as you inhale, just step your right foot to the outside of the right hand. Okay, so we're going to come into a little twist. It's really important in this posture that you have your left knee underneath your left hip. There are postures where we take the left knee back, but I believe we done that last week, so we're going to do something a little bit different now. But today the left knee is going to stay underneath that left hip. The hips are going to stay square to the front of the mat, and the right knee is somewhere over that ankle, and the right leg stays drawing in towards the midline. So we're not pulling the leg in like this, but if you feel like your leg is falling out, just gently draw it back towards the right arm. So everything is nice and lined up. We're going to move into this twist. So as you inhale, look forward, lengthen. And then as you exhale, just turn in the waist, raise the right arm, look up. So it doesn't matter if your right arm is dead vertical. You can have your right arm at an angle. Over time, we're seeing if we can lift the chest a little bit more towards the right side, and then wherever the right arm is, just keep it strong. So we want to really find some lift through the arm so the left arm is light on the floor. As well as a twist, as well as opening up across the chest, this is a hip opener. So you should be feeling something in the top of your right hip. A few more moments here, good for the back, good for the hips. And then exhale, bring that hand down. And then inhale, look forward, and then exhale, turn in the waist, raise the left hand, look up. So we still got the right foot forward, we're just raising the other arm. You'll soon realise that this is a little bit trickier. So this is a very deep stretch on the inside of the right thigh, the right groin. A little bit more wonky, a little bit wobbly sometimes, this one. Same thing applies though, still lifting the left arm up so the right hand is light. Just be mindful that the hips haven't veered off. It is quite difficult to tell, but one thing you can do is place the top hand on the small of the back to make sure the back is facing forward and not off to the side. Okay, and then exhale, bring that left hand down. So keep the legs in the position they're in. We've got the right foot forward still, and we're just going to bring a little bit of a hip stretch into this. So from here, turn your right foot out 90 degrees. If you can't do 90, 45 is okay. And then press down through the right foot. So left knee still underneath that left hip. We've just turned the right foot out 90 degrees. Hopefully, and then we're pressing down through the sole of the foot, and you're already going to feel a much deeper opening in the right hip just by simply moving the foot position. Now you are more than welcome to stay here, or if you did want to sink a little bit deeper, you take an inhale, you exhale, bend the elbows backwards. You may not bend very far, that's okay, you can stay on straight arms, it's enough of a hip stretch as it is, but if you're coming down low enough, you may want to come down onto forearms. But much like every yoga posture really, you cannot force stuff, you just can't. If the hip is tight, if the hip is not allowing you to come down onto forearms, one, who cares, right? Like, it's not the end of the world. But two, there's no way you can force it. That hip is not going to open with force. You're just going to hurt yourself. So I sometimes see quite a few people who are quite desperate to get down onto forearms. It really doesn't matter. If you think about it, we're all working to our edge. I say this quite a lot as it is. If someone's on straight arms and someone's on forearms, they're still feeling the same intensity of the stretch because they're still working to meet their limits. So this is just an added thing really. Okay, nice slow steady breaths, few more moments here, rooting down through the sole of the right foot. And then inhale, come up onto straight arms, and then just square the right toes to face forward, and then step back into all fours. You might want to give your hips a shake. And then we're going to change sides. So as you inhale, left foot to the outside of the left hand, left knee over that ankle, and then keep the right knee underneath the hip. And we'll move through the twist first. So as you inhale, look forward, and then exhale, turn in the waist, left hand comes up, left arm reaches, chest opens, and then feeling that stretch also come into the top of the left hip. Not worrying if you can't extend that arm dead straight. You can bring it at an angle, that doesn't matter. Just make it strong so we're quite light in the right hand. Okay, then exhale, bring that hand down. Here's the nasty side. Inhale, look forward, lengthen, then exhale, turn in the waist. Right hand comes up, and then feeling that stretch transfer inside of left thigh, left groin. Reaching, seeing if you can stay quite light in the right hand, and just being mindful that the hips haven't veered off, so the hips face forward. Keeping the breath steady, a few more moments here. Okay, and then exhale, hand down. Lovely. So now coming into that little hip stretch. So from here, keeping the legs in the position, let's turn the left foot out 90 degrees. And let's root down through the sole of the left foot. Already feeling that deeper opening in the left hip. Be mindful of knees. Staying on straight arms, or if you fancy going a little bit deeper, you can bend the elbows come backwards. Sinking down a little bit more, maybe coming forearms, maybe not. Doesn't matter, just holding it here. And like I mentioned earlier, one side may feel very, very different to the other. So even if you got down on forearms on the other side, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the same thing for this hip. Starting to notice these things so we can build a sort of body awareness. Holding it here. Alright, and then as you inhale, pop yourselves back up onto straight arms. If you bent the elbows, feet forward, step back into all fours, and we're going to come into child's pose. So we're going to come feet together, knees as wide as the mat. Sink the bum towards the heels. Now try and get the bum and the heels as close together as possible. That's what creates the stretch in the lower back before you lay the body down. Now you can come forehead. You can stay upright as well if you don't want to fold forward, no problem. But forehead usually lowers down towards the floor. Forehead does not have to touch the floor. If you're having trouble there, you can put a block or something underneath the forehead. And if your hips are quite open, you can come chin and chest, but a couple of things to be mindful of really is you want your chest bone to hit the floor, and also you really don't want any discomfort in the back of the neck, so you want to see if you can still find a bit of length there. Again, sometimes people force the chin and chest down, it's all very uncomfortable in the back of the neck. Okay. Alright, and then we're just going to bring a little shoulder stretch into this child's pose. A really sort of a nice way to open into the shoulders. So we've got our feet together, we've got the knees as wide as the mat, we've got the arms out in front of us. And then we're just going to lace thread the right arm underneath the left. So the right arm threads underneath the left. We lay the right cheek on the floor, we look left. Still keeping the bum and the heels as close together as possible and laying the weight of the body down into that right shoulder now. Crawling the left fingertips forward and then maybe drawing the left armpit down towards the floor. And this is quite an intense stretch actually. So all these postures today, while they're not Instagrammable necessarily, it doesn't mean they don't feel any less intense. If you've got tight shoulders, this could be a little bit uncomfortable, but just do your best, keep breathing, stretching into the right shoulder, twist across the upper back, as well as opening into the hips. Few more moments here. Okay, and then just untangle, and then we'll do the same thing the other side. So now we're threading the left arm underneath the right, left shoulder on the floor, left cheek on the floor, looking towards the right. Feeling that big stretch in the left shoulder, crawling the right fingertips forward, maybe drawing the right armpit down towards the floor. Okay, and then unthread. That was a bit of a thing there. I was like, oh, how long have I been here? That's the problem with doing yoga in the mornings for me, is that I have a very big tendency to maybe fall asleep. So, come up to all fours before I do fall asleep. Alright, so worked into the shoulders a little bit, worked into the hips a little bit, done a couple of twists. We're doing well, we're doing good. Now we're going to have a little go at downward dog. So downward dog is you know, every single yoga I go to is probably going to have a downward dog. It's a very complicated posture, although it is, you know, everywhere and I suppose simple but very complicated. There's a lot going on. So it's a big stretch in the back of the legs, it's a stretch in the lower back. As well as that, you have a strength element in the shoulders. Wrists are a big thing in downward dog, so for a while it does tend to sort of maybe make the wrists a little bit more sensitive, but what we're trying to do is share the weight between the fingers, the palms, rather than overloading it into the wrists. So we'll have a go. Your knees do not have to be straight, so you can bend your knees as much as you need to, and the heels do not have to be on the floor. What we're trying to do eventually is create a 90-degree angle with the body, so there's a straight line up the arms, up the back, shooting out the back of the hips. So that's more important than getting your legs dead straight. So I just want to play around with the hands a little bit first, because wrists are #1 complaint in downward dog and maybe even in yoga. So if you want to come into all fours, and what we're going to do is we're going to come up onto our fingertips. So we're going to lift the palms up off the floor. So press in all 4 fingers, we haven't got the thumbs on the mat here, all 4 fingers into the floor and lifting the palms. So getting that contact, stretching into the hands. Now sometimes what happens in downward dog is we tend to like grip the mat, which means the fingers lift, which means we can't share the weight between the fingers and the palms. So at all points through this, we want the fingers to be pressing down into the floor like this, and then drop the palms, okay? So the palms have dropped. Now feel that pressure through the hands, that real upward push through the hands, and this is what we want to maintain in our dogs. Then take your feet hip width apart and parallel, tuck your toes, send your hips up and back, coming into your first downward dog. Oh my god, my calves. Alright, so this first downward dog, we are just going to pedal the heels out apparently. We haven't done anything with the hamstrings, the calves today. So your feet are hip width apart and parallel. Your arms are straight if possible. We've got that upward push through the hands, and the head, really important, no effort. So the head just drops down between the arms. You're looking back between the legs, and then just start to pedal one heel down towards the floor, then the other. Doesn't have to hit the floor. Feeling that very sort of like a, for me, not so subtle stretch in the calves, the hamstrings. And when you're doing this pedaling, just make it slow, make it controlled. So there's sometimes a tendency to speed through this, but there's no need. Just like cat-cow, you have to guide the movement. I could probably do this for the next half hour. I think I need to. Alright, doing a good job. As you're pedaling, if you push your hip back as you draw your heel down towards the floor, it draws a deeper stretch at the top of the hamstring towards the glute. Still seeing if we can get the weight back into the legs. Alright, and then stop pedaling. Just see if you can draw both thighs a little bit more towards the back of the room. Holding it here, head's relaxing. So hopefully feeling that strength work in the shoulders as well as the stretch in the back of the leg. Okay, lovely. A few more deep breaths. Really good posture. Alright, and then from here as you exhale, just come down onto your knees. And then we're going to do a different child's pose now. So feet and knees together if possible. Bum draws back towards the heels. Again, seeing if we can get the bum and the heels as close together. as we can before laying the body over the thighs, taking the hands either side of the body this time and letting the forehead melt towards the floor, and then just let the shoulders totally go. So if this isn't comfortable for whatever reason, you can separate the knees and you can also leave your hands out in front. It's not that big a deal. But by taking the arms either side of the body, it does give you a chance to let the shoulders relax. Maybe to give your wrists a little wriggle if that felt a little bit wristy. Taking a couple of deep breaths. And then inhale, just pop yourselves back up into all fours. And we're going to come into downward dog again. We're not going to pedal this time, we're just going to come into the posture itself. So fingers spread, palms pressing down into the floor. Now the hands are roughly shoulder width apart. We also want to keep the fingers facing forward so we've not twisted into the wrists, and then feet hip width apart, tuck the toes, hips up and back, coming into downward dog. Getting the weight as much as possible into the legs, drawing the thighs to the back of the room, head relaxes, maybe tilting the bum up towards the ceiling. And breathing. That's the hard part in this, is breathing. So we're still looking for that rhythm, that slow, steady rhythm through the nose, up into the chest. And in Ashtanga, the style of yoga I like to practice myself and teach from time to time is 5 breaths in downward dog. Downward dog eventually is supposed to be sort of a resting posture, but for a very long time it doesn't feel very restful. It might do over time though, as the body gets used to it. Few more moments. Maybe the longer we hold it, maybe a bit more chance to get the heels a little bit closer to the floor. Maybe not. I'm just making us hold it because I'm enjoying it. Right? We've come out of it now, so as you exhale, come down onto your knees, and again, feet and knees together, bum towards heels, forehead towards side of the body, palms down, maybe give the wrists a wriggle, maybe just let the shoulders drop, whatever feels good here. And then we're just going to bring a little shoulder stretch into this. So one thing that happens, sometimes the bum starts to lift away from the heels in this, but see if you can keep the butt drawing down to the heels. So we're not going to lift the bum today. Interlace your hands behind the back, squeeze your shoulder blades together, and then inhale, see if you can lift your arms away from the lower back. Opening into the shoulders across the chest. And then exhale, just let the hands flop either side of the body. And then inhale, pop yourself up into all fours. And then from here, we are just going to step the right foot to the outside of the right hand. We're going to step the left foot to the outside of the left. This is a little bit gnarly. And then we're going to just drop the hips. And we're going to come down into our little squat. And this, yeah, we're nearly there, doing a good job. So if this squat isn't accessible, you're going to find squats in pretty much every class I do. I love squats. I love this posture. Fantastic for your lower back, fantastic for your hips. Great way to open into the groin as well. But it can be very difficult. So if your heels do not touch the floor, you can come up onto the balls of your feet. That's not a problem. If you're on the balls of the feet though, it might be quite difficult to take your hands in prayer, in which case you can take the fingertips to the floor for balance, come up a little bit higher and just feel how that is. If the heels are coming down, hands in prayer, also working into the ankles. We'll just take the feet come out about 45 degrees, pressing the arms into the legs back into the arms as well, so there's some resistance there. And then seeing if you can roll the shoulders back, keep the chest broad. And breath steady. Holding it here. A thing that tends to happen in this is that the shoulders tend to roll forward, but see if you can gently roll the shoulders back, extend through the crown of the head. Be mindful of your knees in this, doing a good job. Few more moments. So I'm a big fan of a long hold in this squat as well. Okay, lovely. And then as you inhale, we're just going to push ourselves up to standing. So a little strength in the legs. Give your legs a little shake. And then I think we're going to finish just with a forward fold. So come and stand with your feet hip width apart and parallel. Take your hands to your hips. Forward folds, as well as working into the backs of the legs, are very good for your lower back too. So if this feels all hamstrings, just bend the legs a little bit more, okay? We want to really feel that tension release in the lower back. So feet hip width apart and parallel, hands to hips. As you inhale, lift the chest, look up. Find some length as you exhale, fold forward. And then once you're in your fold, take hold of your own elbows, let the head drop. And then before we actually come into the full version, we want to see if we can find a little bit more length. So as you inhale, stretch the spine forward. And then as you exhale, now release down into the full posture, and this is also known as ragdoll, so it gives you an idea of how floppy you want the upper body to be. You want the shoulders to draw down by the ears, so the shoulders are just melting. There's a tension releasing in the lower back, bending the knees as much as possible, and then just seeing if you can bring the weight forward ever so slightly into the toes rather than sinking back too heavy in the hips. Holding it here, nice slow steady breaths. It's quite hard to do when you're upside down. Okay, lovely, and then as you inhale, look forward, exhale, hands to hips, and then inhale, very slowly push yourself back up to standing, give your legs a little shake, and then we're just going to come through one sun salutation into lion so that we can just have a little rest. So legs together, lift the shoulders, allow them to fall back, head slightly tilted forward. Sun salutations, another thing you're going to find in pretty much nearly, I don't do them all the time actually, but you're going to find them in a lot of my classes. So as you inhale, we're going to swoop the arms up, look up. And then exhale, fold, hands to floor, drop the head, bend the knees as much as you need to. So coming into another little forward fold here. Now as you inhale, lengthen, keep the hands or the fingertips on the floor. And then exhale, step back to plank. And from plank, just lower to lower floor. You inhale through a back bend, shoulders back. And then exhale into downward dog, which we've done a bit of work with today. And from downward dog, just come down onto your knees, cross the ankles, or make your way into a lying position, however you're working it. Come down onto your back and then just hug your knees into your chest, rock from side to side. Alright, and then finally finishing how we started, so coming into whichever lying posture you like. So you can come into Shavasana, which is legs straight, palms face up, or you can bring the soles of the feet together and come into that reclined bound angle posture. I don't actually mind what you want to do. The reason we come into Shavasana, or that comfortable lying position at the end of the class, is to give the body a chance to digest all the postures it's done, to give the breath a chance to come back to normal. Now we didn't do a lot of like strength building stuff today, however, I do include quite a lot of that in my classes, so sometimes we do get the heart rate up quite a bit, and Shavasana is a great way to just chill out afterwards. Okay, so the whole body just relaxes, everything's very heavy. If the legs are straight, the feet fall out sideways. Now, this isn't something we're forcing, we're not forcing the feet to fall out sideways, but as the hips open, this is something that naturally happens. The same thing with the shoulders and the palms facing up. And the only thing really to be mindful of is that the chin tucks in towards the chest ever so slightly, so the back of the neck is long. And you can stay in Shavasana for as long as you want, but for the purpose of this shorter class, I wanted to give people a couple of time options today. We can come out of it by taking a cat stretch. Make yourself as long as possible. And then hug your knees into your chest, rock from side to side, make those circles again. Okay, and then when you're ready, you can just pop yourself up into seated. So well done, thank you for joining me. This is the last sort of beginner's class I was going to do. Really, I've done it because I ran out of time last week. So we done some of the postures last week. If you've done this class and you haven't done the one before, go check that one out, come back to this. And together it's like an hour and 45, just squeezed in all the fundamental postures that I do from time to time. I got a little bit too comfortable in some of those postures, not gonna lie. I can totally imagine me falling asleep on a live yoga video. I hope you have a really, really lovely day, and my next Facebook Live is on Friday. We're gonna be doing lots of twists Friday evening, a bit more awake then. Have a lovely day, thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time. All right, I'm off, see you later.